A lot of people are talking about how good your front is. Is that accurate, or are you a wait-and-see guy?
I think we have the ability to be a good group there. You know, I think I go back to 2 years ago, and we were able to build a front that could play over, could play under, could play odd looks. I think we slanted some in the bowl game in Louisville. We slanted. We were able to rotate, and so, you know, the most the D lineman got in that season in a game was maybe 30-some reps. And so I think all of those things are critical issues to being effective as a front. When you don't have that, so you don't have the ability to play multiple fronts. When you don't have the ability to rotate guys in, and there's a kid that's got to play 60-some snaps, I think that severely limits your ability to be any good. And so we struggled with some of that at times last year. And so how those pieces come together this season, I think kind of remains to be seen. But we do have depth and we do have talent. We got to get everyone on the same page and get rolling. I'm excited about the challenge of that because I love the group.
Do you think some of that caught up with you a little bit last year at times?
Yeah, you know, last year what I think was I felt was a struggle. Last year was the toughest year in coaching I've had, you know. And I remember sitting down, Pete Jenkins was our D-line coach, and I'd sit down next to Pete, and you know, I get my body weight in the chair, and I'm just exhausted. And Pete would follow me and sit down, just exhausted, and we both look at each other, and like, you know, it was just a struggle. We had some young guys that had to mature quickly. We had young guys that had to play critical spots at critical times, and anytime you're doing that, you know, there's going to be growing pains, and there certainly was. You know, linebacker-wise, you know, I thought our steps, our footwork was poor at times. I felt like our eye discipline was poor at times. I go back to the Troy game, and all the misdirection run I think was a direct result of how inconsistent we were with our keys and reads and our footwork. And so, you know, we were dealing with those growing pains. Now I felt towards the end of the year we got better. You know, I think early on in the year we were playing nickel, and you know, a lot of that was kind of stemming from the year before. We played nickel and we had a great one, and felt like that was the way to go. And I think towards the middle part of the season last year, we saw where, you know, playing Corey Thompson and playing more base fit us better. And so I think as the season went on, we got better and better and better. But you know, that was a growing kind of learning experience, and you like to get to the point to where you've grown some enough, and you kind of figure out who you are, and so you can go ahead about the business of being who you are, you know. And so I'm hoping that that's the case here coming up.
I'd like to throw out two players and just tell me what pops out to you. Rashard Lawrence and Greedy Williams. Okay.
Rashard, I see leader. I see, you know, Rashard is a stalwart of our front. I think, you know, everyone respects Rashard. Everyone looks to Rashard for how to do things, how to go about the daily drills, how to go about studying tape. And so I have a lot of respect for Rashard and what he does. I think, you know, we got a fair amount of young D linemen. They're all looking at Rashard and how does he go about the day-to-day. How to be an SEC defensive lineman is looked through what Rashard does daily. And then Greedy Williams, I think, you know, what Greedy has all the ability in the world. You know, there's a confidence, I think, that separates Greedy. When I remember when Greedy was a freshman playing, you know, the stage was never too big for him. He would be lined up on Malachi Dupree or you name it, whoever it was, and it didn't matter anything. And Greedy was going to cover him, and he would walk up to that one-on-one with all the confidence in the world. I mean, you could tell by him kind of settling into his stance that he knew he was going to cover the guy. And so that confidence, that inner strength right there is Greedy's strongest and biggest weapon. And so I think, Greedy is consistently pushed to be better and work on his craft. And so I'm excited about what the future holds for Greedy.
Coach, I know other schools recruited you. Did the autonomy you have here, not every coach has that. Was that part of your reasoning for staying here?
It probably played a part. I think the things that I can remember from that time was that I love it here. And my relationship with Coach O is really good. I've got a lot of respect for him. I see what he's doing in terms of handling the team and how he handles the coaches, and I'm 100% behind him on all of it. And so I love the coaching staff that we have here. Dennis Johnson's a great up-and-coming coach. Corey Raymond is such a believer in his position group, and they believe in him. And he's a great teacher of fundamentals. And then the ability to hire Bill Bush and bring Bill in, I think, was big. Bill brings, he's familiar to me, and he's a great tireless recruiter, and he's a great technician, and he's a great schemer as well. And so all of that, being around that, my family didn't want to go anywhere. They wanted to stay. They love their school. They love the spot where we live and our neighbors and the whole thing. And so I think I remember those things when I go back to that time. And so anytime you can go to work and you love where you work and you're looking forward to it and you're looking forward to interacting with the people that you're spending however many hours a day with, anytime you've got that, you want to keep it.
So the wife and kids leaned on you a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah. So the girls they're old enough to where they know what's going on. I think there's been issues in the past with moves or possible moves where they were, we're kind of deciding for them. They're getting to the age where they're wanting to do some deciding themselves. So it was good to hear their part.
As any coach would, you want to feel set up for success, depth and personnel-wise. Mm-hmm. Does that feel different this year?
It does. Front-wise it does. I think we've got the ability to rotate people. We've got the ability to play. If a team goes big, we've got big people that we can play. If a team goes small, we got small people that can play. We can rotate if we're just playing base defense. We were not able to do that last year. That was not a luxury that we had, and so that's a plus. Linebacker-wise, I think we're still building that. Devin White, I think, played about every snap last year. I think there was a few. We had a walk-on earned a scholarship last year, Rucker, that played. I think his last game might have been the Florida game. He had about 3-4 reps in Florida. But outside of that, Devin played about every snap, and so to be able to have Patrick Queen emerge, and Patrick played 2 or 3 series a game, so that Devin's not playing 80 snaps a game. Those are things that we didn't have last year that would be nice to have, and I think we do have that. But along with the depth comes we have to be able to execute. Our guys that are emerging, the Patrick Queens, the Tyler Shelvins, the Braden Fajokos, the guys are going to be working in and playing. When they have their time, I as a coach have to get them ready to where they're executing technique, and when the time is appropriate, they are fundamental masters of their position. If that is the case, then we're rotating. Then we got depth. If there's not an ability to be a winner of your one-on-one battles, then it's hard to be able to rotate in. And the same would be with adding more to the defense. We'd love to be able to do more things defensively, but it all starts with we got to defeat a reach block. We've got to be able to cross key and not shuffle with our feet and
and not cross over. We've got to be able to bail and get our eyes to 2 and clear 2 to 1. We do those things effectively, it's going to open up the ability to do other things, which I think, frankly, is sorely needed for us. And so, the technique part of it, the being a master of your one-on-ones, that is of utmost importance. And once that's really solidified and we've got good standing, we can rotate people, we can add more defense and see where it goes. So it's a good challenge. It's a good problem to have.
I wonder over the last couple of years, the way that you've seen college football change, particularly scheduling-wise, where now first week of the season, because the playoff committee wants you to be playing non-conference games that are big time.
Right.
How much more difficult that makes as a coach. You don't have any kind of warm-up game or cupcake, if you want to call it that.
Right.
You hit the ground running with Miami.
Yeah, I think it's a positive thing. I think our players are going to feel invigorated by it. They're going to feel challenged, and so that's positive. I think coaching staff-wise, I mean, you spend a lot of time on that opening game. We spent a fair amount of time on Miami in terms of just the general philosophy and their playmakers, and whether it's talking to coaches that have played them last year or going through all the situational breakdowns, and we've got a good little army of analysts that have helped us in that regard. Kevin Coyle and Mark Kreiner, Aaron Schwantz have done a great job kind of prepping myself really for Miami, and so I appreciate their time, and it was time well spent for about 2 weeks this month just looking at Miami. And so all of that you love as a coach. The more you can get to ball is better, and playing a quality opponent helps it feels like it helps accelerate that a little bit.
Do you ever get angry?
No, not really. I wish.
Never?
No, there was a time I remember when I was younger where I forget what the exact situation was, but I remember just kind of thinking I should probably be getting angry right here, and it didn't happen, man. And so that was the first time I kind of it struck me that this is probably different, and not much has really changed since then. Yeah.
So how do you get on a guy? I know you got to coach guys.
Yeah.
How do you get on a guy without being angry?
I just talk to them one-on-one. I think I pull them aside. It's more of like a rational argument, I guess. And so you build a case of there's a mistake. I think players in general are going to want to try to do the best they can. They want to do right, and so they're not. And I know you didn't mean this by your question, but they're not trying to make mistakes. So I think that, as a beginner into this query, is true. But then further, then it becomes like, how do you address it? How do you teach them? And then really, to be honest, how do you open up the avenue? Because it's not going to be the first time they make a mistake. How do you open up the avenue of trust to where you can correct future mistakes, and they feel that they can come to you, and they feel that they can answer freely. Hey, Billy Bob, you were supposed to cover the tight end. You want Billy to say, hey man, I was looking at the running back. You know what I mean? And so if you have that type of truth, we can work with that. We can address what is at the core now, as opposed to loud noises, crashing sounds, and just a bunch of other stuff that has nothing to do with what the issue is.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.